Okay, so continuing where we left off from the last video, so this is where we last ended. Okay, so this is the blocked out character, the body, and then the head. So for today, we're just going to concentrate on the head and try to add in a little bit more details. So let me just go back to level 1, and you can see that we have the eye socket pushed back, and then also some of the details, right, to avoid having the head, giving the head a sort of a V shape, which is a very common issue with a lot of beginners when modeling the face, right? We already moved and pushed the vertices forward a little bit so that it appears a little bit flatter. Okay, at this stage, right, we don't have enough edge loops, right, to define the shape. We already moved the vertices as much as we can based on the references that we have. So I'm going to go to my material properties and adjust its transparency so I can carry on to work. Okay, of course you can use other methods to do this, but this is a method that I prefer. Some people prefer using the X-ray, that's fine. Alright, so I will now switch back to mode 3, and then I'll use that to move the vertices until it starts to form the shape of the eye and the rest of the body parts based on my sketch. Okay, one of the useful tools that I found that is really good is the holding down Control Shift and then dragging to slide the vertex. This will allow the vertex, right, to remain, or even the edge, right, to remain in the shape. Holding down the Control Shift while you're in move mode, you can slide edges or you can slide vertices, which I find incredibly useful. So Control Shift, and then you can, in the move mode, just move and slide. All right. Alright, so I'm going to press number 3 again, and one thing when you model something out from a box is that usually your head, right, will have a very sharp corner. So usually for the corners here, these bunch of vertices will move along in the Z and the X axis, right, to just round off everything. Okay. So I'm going to check my right view again in the subdivided mode. And I'm just going to give her a much more prominent forehead, and then a nose bridge, push it back so that it matches the design that I want. But again, all of these are still will be pending changes again, okay, once we've seen the final result. Now for the mouth, right, now you can see that there is a hole over here. So what I'll do is I'll try to line them up and put them in the same plane. Okay, we can tweak this later on. So you can go over and select the edge loop here, select this edge, holding down the shift, double click, then go over to the front view, and then we're going to use scale, right, which is R, and then just scale it down until they're almost flat, and then go over to the side view. Then in the Z axis, we're just going to scale them down until it becomes a slit. Alright, you don't have to worry about this later on, because once we add the edge loops, we can start to tweak and play with that. Now again, if some of you might prefer changing your layouts into 2 panes side by side, so that one of the panes will be the front view. You can press 6 to turn on the texture, and you can scale it up so that we can move the vertices to where we want it. So right now I'm positioning the vertices so that it matches roughly the size of the mouth. So I'm trying to put this as close as possible. Because we are using like a mirror instance, so sometimes if the sides don't line up, you can just drag a box over the center vertices like that, and then just use scale to scale them down on the x-axis, then press W and then holding down to X, and then have it snapped in the center of this axis line, so everything will just not join in nicely. Okay. So right now I'm just tweaking just to make sure, and then you can see that for her chin, right, there's a section here that goes up like that. So right now I'm gonna start to add in more detail. So I'll just use multi-cut tool to add in another edge loop. So remember the rule: every time you add in an edge loop, you must start to move the vertices. Okay, don't just leave them hanging there, because you end up with a hard edge. right? So that is one thing that we will try to avoid. So every time we add in an edge loop, we start to move the vertices. Okay, now that we have this extra detail, we can pull these group of vertices down, so we can use this new group of vertices to define the forehead and spread it around. Okay, you do not want to have two edge loops that are too close to each other, otherwise you'll define a very hard edge. Okay, so the intention is we do not want the two closely placed edge loops to form a supporting edge loop. Okay, if you've done this for your hard surface modeling, you will understand what I mean. Okay, the kind of modeling that I'm doing right now, this is called subdivision modeling. This is like we are gradually adding more and more details in order to form, or adding more edge loops, right, to form the shape that we want. Okay, right now I'm moving the circular edge loop here so that it will roughly form this the shape of the eyelash that I've designed for my character. And if you take a look at it, the perspective, you can see that I pretty much push the eye socket, right, so that it is right into the skull area. So the next thing I want to do is I want to give the eye a sort of like a pushed out look. So one of the things that I will need to create is to create a temporary eyeball. So the closest thing will be, of course, a sphere. So I'm going to create a sphere and then use that as my eyeball first. So I'm going to go to object mode, then holding down the shift right mouse click and create a sphere. And I don't really need such a high resolution sphere, so I'm going to reduce the height divisions down to maybe 12. I think that's good enough. And then I'll just rotate this 90 degrees forwards, and I'll just move this sphere forward like that. And you want to push it until it starts to jut out within the same eye line as your character, or in my case, right, maybe I want to push it back a little bit. Okay, I'm going to change my material attributes for this material back to opaque. Then I'm just going to press number 3. Okay, and normally I don't like these triangular faces, so I will get rid of them. Holding down the tab in face selection mode, and then just drag to select them, and then just delete them. And then I will select this, and then I will just fill the hole. Okay, and then I'll go back to level 1 again. I'm just going to try to split them. Okay, I'll connect these two here. Okay, the connector didn't work as I wanted, so let me just connect. Yeah. And then you can go to multi-selection, select this vertex, shift select this edge, and then shift select this vertex again. Then run the connect by pressing G, then we can connect them together. Okay, so I'm going to continue to connect them across here. Shift and then select this edge, and then press G to connect. So as I increase the number of edges, I have to go and select this again, and I'm doing all these connections. And I think I'm trying to see where I can make everything look more four-sided. And connect. So let me inspect. Okay, there's no more triangular faces over here. If I press number 3, it should remain as almost a circular pattern. So here it still doesn't look very circular for me. Let's see. I'm going to try to select these faces and force them. Actually, they are already in a circular pattern. So just going to use the circularize, okay, to spread them out more evenly. And then if I press number 3, okay, it is close to circle. I'm going to add one edge loop closer to this edge. So I'm going to use the multi-cut and just put it as close as I can. So hopefully it will force it. Yeah, now it is much nice and rounded. So I'm going to tweak this eyeball a little bit more. You can see that because I covered this is flat, I will just select these 4 faces, holding down to my soft selection, holding down the B, middle mouse click and drag so that I can pull out a gentle bulge so that it looks more like a eyeball. Alright, so I think the eyeball is in a good position, but you know that right now the eye socket, right, the lids and everything is appeared too deep inside. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select this edge here, press B to turn off my soft selection. Okay, and then I will gradually push them out a little bit so that it will encompass the eyeball. Okay, maybe I'll turn on the B for soft selection to push it out so that it influence a bigger region. Holding down B, middle mouse click and drag. So this is where the soft selection will come in very useful. Just gonna pull this out so that, yeah, right now I can see the edge. Okay, this is what I want. And I will select this edge here. Okay, right now because we do not have a lot of vertices on the face itself, so it's a little bit tricky to adjust. So I'm just right now trying to push this out a little bit. Okay, because I want to maintain the shape based on the design, so I do not want to, I just want to push in and out until it conforms onto the surface of the eyeball. So eventually when I add in more what you call it, edge loops, I should be able to adjust the eye. Okay, so right now I think over here I need one more edge loop that run across here because this area here is giving me some issues. So I'm gonna, holding down, use multi-cut, middle mouse click to cut here and see, so you can see now we have enough detail here to adjust. Press Q to adjust, to select rather, and then I can finally push this back. For the eyelid, to give you a little bit more flashy eyelid, okay, we are going to insert one edge loop right about here, right in the middle here. Okay, and then you can see now we have a sort of flashy region, and then we have a little bit here that we can form sort of like the eye bag. Yeah, of course we don't want to give our character eye bag since this is supposedly a younger character, so we want to just shape it as nicely as possible. Okay, I think now if you have a vertex that is hidden, you can use a cursor. This is one of the best tools about Maya's modeling. You can use the cursor, you can press down and then you can navigate to the next one. You can press the left or right cursor, you can see navigate to the next one. Otherwise you will have to press number 4 to go to wireframe mode so that you can select the vertex that you want to push or pull in and out. So in order for your head to look good, you have to spend some time. You do not want to rush this because, especially in terms of adding too much detail right in the beginning, then always remember this rule. Every time you add a loop or what, always remember to move it until it is in the position that you want before you proceed on to add in additional vertices. Okay, so now let's give some color to the eyes because if it's the whole eye is grayed out, it looks really odd. So I'm going to the face selection mode, select the central faces, then holding down the shift full stop to increase the selection, and shrink and increase. So I'm going to give a super large iris. So right mouse click, assign a new material. I'm going to assign it a blend and then just a black material. And then select inverse, which is Ctrl+Shift+I. Ctrl+Shift+I doesn't seem to work, so I will just use the button here. Select inverse. Yeah, I don't know why it doesn't want to work. Okay, so I'm going to try another method. I'm going to select these faces again. Then increase the selection, Shift full stop to increase the selection. And then increase and then decrease. Decrease is Shift comma. Then select inverse. Okay, now I can assign this with a white. Assign a new material. Also a blend, and just give this a plain white material. Okay, so I think this eyeball is seated a bit too low. I will just move this eyeball up a little bit more. Okay, and then I will have to fix the lower portion here again, and maybe even I will scale this eyeball up a little bit more. Okay, we'll fix this area a little bit later. Okay, right now I will duplicate this eyeball. So I want this eyeball, right, to be a mirror copy on the other side. So I want to create an instance of this eyeball. So press D, right, holding down, press D to activate the pivot adjustment mode. Then holding down the X key, we're going to drag this pivot center so that it's right in the world center. Press D again to get out. Then go to Edit, Duplicate Special. Make sure they're duplicating along the x-axis -1 instance and then duplicate. So we will have the eye on the other side. Okay, so we have our eye position. We're going to tweak these areas later. Now let's take a look at the mouth area here. So you can see, although we have a little bit of geometry, right, to define the nose, obviously we need to have more information to show this area. Now, if you look at typical facial topology, right, the line will usually run across the nose. So what I'm going to do right now to assist me in that is that I'm going to move this vertex further up a little bit. So we're going to ignore this for a short while because we want to create a nice edge loop, right, that basically runs across the nose bridge, then back down again. So I'm going to insert one edge loop right about here. Alright, and then from here we can actually start to form use this face here to sort of like form the nose. Alright, so to wedge out the nose, so if I go to level 1, this is what it looks like right now. We're going to go back to multi-selection mode again. So we're going to select this face, and then we're going to select this edge. Then remember, face and edge in multi-selection mode. Then use the wedge mode to wedge out the face. Okay, so right now what you can see, there's a bunch of faces being wedged out, but there are 4 divisions. We do not need 4 divisions, we just need only 1. Okay, and then we will see that we have created a triangular face, but we can fix that easily with another edge loop. But now this will give us an extra detail to form the nose. Now, as we wedged out in the center, there's a middle face here. We do not need this face, we can delete this face away. Then we can grab this vertex, go to move tool, and then just move it to the center. And if we press number 3, you can see that now we have this extra detail for the nose, and we can start to push this vertex back. We're going to reshape this so it looks a little bit better. You can push this forward, and now you can see that we have a nice topology, right, for the nose area. Okay, and what about this section here? So how are we going to fix this? Well, we can reflow, okay, what we call the reflow the topology. We can basically cut one edge loop right down from the bottom of the eye here to connect to this one. So we can use the connect tool. So I'm going to go to multi-selection again. So select this edge loop and this vertex, holding down the shift, and select this vertex. Then we use the connect tool, shift right mouse click and connect, and it will cut all the way across. And since we got these two combination triangles, we can select this edge here and control delete it. Then we have a nice topological flow right now. Okay, we have our edge loop that runs across the nose bridge, okay, which is what we want, and we have enough detail to shape the nose nicely, and then also of course the nose bridge. Now probably run another edge loop right across here down to get a much more defined nose bridge. In fact, that's what I'm going to do right now. So before I do that, I'm just going to select these two edge loops here, and then I'm going to slide them out, okay, because I need to add one more edge loop here. Just middle mouse click right in the center here. So once we have this extra edge loop, remember every time edge, please go and tweak and adjust. Okay, actually this right now is getting a little bit too much edge loops for me to handle, so I'm going to spend some time to really tweak the position first. Okay, you can see when we have edge loops right that are too close to one another, this is what happens. You start to form a straight line. So we're going to grab this vertex here and just round off everything. Spread out the edge loops. You do not want them to like bunch up together. And now that we have all these extra geometry, we can start to tweak them and move them until we got a nice looking nose bridge for our character. Alright. Okay, and also characters that have more defined cheekbone is much more attractive looking, and because we added one edge loop around here, we want to puff up her face so that she got nice fat cheeks. Okay, so give an illusion that she has this high cheekbones. Right. So it's a much more, I would say, attractive design. Okay, so as I start to add in more and more detail, so remember to spread out your geometry. Don't let them bunch up too much together, otherwise you'll have too much hard edges all over the place, and that's not what we want. Okay, so just spread them out. So while you can see that everything is relatively, the amount of geometry is still quite low, okay, so use the opportunity to try to move them all into place. Alright, so right now her nose looks a little bit almost like a crooked nose, so I'll try to, and with all these extra geometry I have to spread them out, and I need to have a nice nose profile, so I'm using my side reference to move the geometry into place. Now for some of you who are doing this for the first time, you just have to be patient, because I can tell you my first phase when I try to do this, it doesn't look good at all. In fact, it just looks horrible. If you're doing this for the very first time, please don't be upset if your first result doesn't look good, because it really takes a lot of time and experience. Okay, but once you gain the experience, right, you will know what not to do next. Okay, so you just keep on adding, just keep on practicing, and eventually you're just going to get better at it. And be as observant as possible, and also take a good look at other people's work. And if you've done enough research, you'll find that a lot of great artists, digital artists out there, they also started out just like you and me, okay, knowing nothing, and then the skill level is very poor, for their initial works, which is quite understandable because you're doing this for the first time. But once you begin to understand and appreciate the tools that Maya has for polygonal modeling, you're just going to get naturally better and better at it over time. But you just have to be very patient. Now you notice that almost every single vertex that I have created, right, this is one of the advice that, not really advice, but one of the things that I heard from a master modeler who actually does a lot of high resolution models for industrial light and magic. And this is what he says. He said when you're doing this type of modeling, it is inevitable that all the vertices and all the vertices that you create, right, will be at least moved once. And I think what he said is very true. Okay, so this is starting to look pretty good. This is looking getting to where I wanted. So now I want to shape the mouth area. So you notice that for the mouth area, right, we don't really have a lot of topology around this area. So the loop that we are going to place the edge loop is these group of faces that run around this face loop. So I'm going to insert one edge loop first, okay, and then I will start to shape the mouth. Right, so I'm going to select this loop, and then I will this edge loop, which I can just simply double click to select. Then I'll press W to move, and then just pull out, and you can see the outline of the lips will start to form. Okay, alright, so the lips doesn't really look that nice, okay, not at this point at least. Okay, but for this one we will need to tweak it in various view. Now for the mouth, okay, if you want to do a accurate looking mouth, the mouth, right, will have a sort of like a bulging out in a curve like that. You will go out like that. Your mouth, it will not look like this. This kind of look like a fish mouth right now. So what we're going to do is we're going to select one section here. You can either use the edge or you can use soft selection. I'm just going to push this back slightly. Alright, and then this one I'm just going to push it, these two edge, I'm going to push it back a little bit more. And then you can see that we are starting to see the early beginnings of a simplified lip. Now the edge of this vertex, right, we can push it all the way in a little bit, okay, and then you can see our lips are coming out, okay, a little bit by a little bit. And then we want to create a little chin for her, so I'm going to go to the right view and maybe grab these vertices, and or rather these loop that is below the lip, and then just push it back and then reshape the bottom geometry here so they form a little chin. So when you have so few vertices to be working on, it's much easier. Okay, so I want to create a lower lip, right, that is a bit, doesn't jut out as much as the upper lip. Okay, so the upper lip, right, will be coming out a little bit more compared to the lower lip. Okay, let's take a look at the front and see what it looks like for now. And now we want to create a nice lip shape. So normally, right, now I do not know the exact anatomical name. There are actually anatomical names, right, to describe the different parts of our bodies, and including the facial muscles and all that. So by simply squeezing this tip here, the edge of the lip here, we can create a very nice looking edge. Okay, so this one I think it's already gone down quite a lot. If I go to level 1, right, it's probably crossing out one each other right now. Okay, so I think this one is fine, and maybe I want to give the lower lip a little bit more definition. And you can see that we have some sort of a lip. Okay, so I'll just round this off a little bit. Okay, let's go back to the perspective and then see what it looks like. And I think it doesn't look too bad, okay, with just these few geometry. Now if you want the lip edge, right, to be really defined, then we're going to insert one more edge loop right across here. Okay, but that is optional at this stage, but this is the result. Okay, after inserting, you can see that the lip is now way more defined. Okay, so it's almost like a supporting edge loop. So I think this is good. I mean, at this stage is good for now. Let me just tweak the eye a little bit more. And I'll just push this. Remember, just pushing forward and backwards for this. I do not want to move this up and down because I just want to follow my sketch design as closely as I can. So usually the eyes here might probably take some time, right, in order to get it to look right. Okay, which is quite understandable. Okay, if you want your model to look good. So this one probably I'll just push it back a little bit. So remember, you want to avoid putting too many details at this stage. Okay, I would say that this is like okay, we're already beyond the blocking. We are right now adding all the details, but just do it bit by bit, slowly, and then you're just gonna get there. Okay, and then at this stage, right, I think I can extrude out a proto neck or a simple neck for her. So I'm gonna grab these faces here and just holding down the shift and then extrude out the neck. Now I'm going to isolate this object, view, isolate it, and then make sure I delete away the central faces and then the bottom face. We don't really need the bottom face here. Okay, and then we will try to make the neck a little bit more rounded at the base here, like this. Just push this back a bit. This one, just push it down like that. Okay, so let's get out of isolate, and we have the neck more or less connected to the body. Now for this type of characters, right, you can decide whether you want to have the head connected to the body topologically. Okay, of course that will require you to plan your topological lines very carefully, but for a lot of cases, right, the head, the mesh is actually separated from the body, and then the seam line is usually covered by clothes or maybe a necklace or accessory. I think for this purpose, if you're learning, I think you want to try to keep things as simple as possible. Okay, this one I can push this back a bit, and select the eye, all the vertices. Okay, so let's make her eye a little bit more attractive. We're going to create some fake highlights. So this is a trick that I've learned. I'm going to select these four faces, and then I will assign the white material to it. I'll go to this other eye and then do the same thing, assign the same fake highlights. And then right mouse click, assign the same white color, so it will have some fake highlights. And then maybe this time now I can give it a much more natural skin color. Okay, and then for the lips, I will give her, since this is a loop, I can select this. Again, these are just temporary colors, so what we're going to do later on is that we're going to put her in. Okay, I'm going to come up this one. Okay, so now she has some lipstick, and we are now ready to maybe add some detail, like for example eyelashes, and then the eyebrows. Okay, so how do you add a simplified eyelash and eyebrow like what I did for this previous model over here? Okay, very, very simple. These are just flat, plain, polygonal objects, and a couple of ways you can do that. I'm going to show you one way, that is to use the Polygon tool to draw it out. One thing you can do is you can activate and make this an active creation surface. So I'm going to try that. So when you make this into let's go to display my status line. Okay, so we want to turn on this live surface. So with this thing selected, okay, we have to specify as a live surface. Okay, so this is now the live surface. So whatever I create, right, will be snapped onto this surface here. So I want to go to object creation mode, the create polygon tool, and then I'm just going to draw a simple eyelash. And then you can notice that this eyelash is actually snapped onto the surface. So you want to draw it with, I want to draw it with a sort of like a typical tweak out like that. So this one I have to draw reference from my wife's makeup business. Alright, so now it has this tweak up like this, and then this object right now is snapped onto the surface. Okay, so what we're going to do is we are going to try to tweak this so that it looks a little bit better. I'm going to get out of this live surface so that now this object is no longer snapped onto this, and I'm going to reverse this mesh because when I drew it in the clockwise direction, the face is reversed. So I'm going to go to mesh display and reverse it so that it becomes a gray surface. Okay, yep. And then I will continue to tweak this. I can press number 3 so that it is subdivided, but you can see that right now the geometry is all over the place. So let's go and isolate this and fix it so that everything is converted into 4-sided faces. Alright, so let's go and look at the vertex. So you can see the way I drew it, right, is deliberate. I want to make sure that I can connect these vertices across each other so that they form 4-sided faces. This will make subdivision a little bit easier. With the 2 vertices selected, okay, I will hold down the shift right mouse click, connect components, press G to repeat last command, repeat last command, repeat last command. And then I'm going to insert a loop cut right in the middle like that. So right now if I press number 3, this object, right, will subdivide much nicer like that. And I'm going to assign it with a nice material, assign a new material, and just give it a also blend again. Again, these are just temporary materials. We will be doing our material in Unreal or Substance Beta. Okay, so now we have the material assigned. Now I want the eyelash to bulge out a little bit, so to give it some definition. So I'm going to select this edge loop, then press W and then push it forwards. So you have some definition. Okay, and then I also want the tip, right, to be nice and sharp like that. So now I have the eyelash. So let me get out of the isolate view, okay, and then we can start to make her eyelash look a little bit better. So her eyelash is quite close to her eye, and we will grab these and then just move it. And again, I will need to have a side view, so that will help me to push out those vertices, right, that are hitting the skin surface. And this one can push it out a little bit. So the light surface in this case is extremely useful because we can snap our eyelashes or eyebrows, right, very close to the surface. Alright, so for the eyebrow, okay, now let's give her another eyebrow on the other side. So very simple, just select the object in object mode, press W to move. Usually the pivot point will be at the bottom. Press D. Okay, press D to move the pivot point. Just get out. Let's try this one more time and press D once and then drag this up to the center. And you can see that it's already at the center, so we don't have to shift the pivot point to the center. So next thing we want to do is just duplicate special, edit and duplicate special. Since we already done it for the eyeballs, we're going to use the previous settings. So now she has this eyelashes, exaggerated eyelashes. The next thing we want to give her is eyebrows.
So for eyebrows, right, I'm going to cheat a little. So I'm going to just duplicate this head one more, just clone one.
And I'm going to use my multi-cut tool and then just add one more edge loop here. And then I'm just going to use this loop around, right, as a basis to build the eyelash. So very simple. All you need to do is to select the faces that will form the eyelash. Then go and select inverse and delete away the face. So we will know that these faces, right, that we just created will definitely fit onto her eye. And right now you can see the eyelash, obviously this one is way too much. Okay, so I'm going to insert one more edge loop just to thin it down right in the middle. And I think I will just delete away these faces. I don't need this, and I think this is good. Wait, I think I on the other hand I need it because I need this curve support, so I'll just insert one edge loop here and then delete away these faces. I'm going to assign her eyelash with the same color. Should be number 4, and then you can see right now she has very thick eyebrow. Alright, so I'll need to, I'm going to temporarily use X-ray and so that I can see the design of where my eyebrows is supposed to be. Okay, right now my modeling reference, right, is interfering with my selection, so I'm going to turn off. I already put them in this layer, so I'm going to turn it off so I don't select them all the time. Okay, so now my eyebrows are selected. I can go and move them into place. Okay, I'm going to use a sliding tool because holding down Control Shift, slide them to the side a bit. Yeah. And as you kind of think of it, it's very, very thick right now, so maybe I'll delete away these top faces. I don't need this, and I'll just insert one more edge loop in the center here, then select this edge, push it out slightly, give it some definition, and we are going to move the vertices to define the eyelash. Okay, so far the eyelashes, okay, I need to push this one out because it's been obscured by the skin surface. Okay, so we have the eyelash. So same thing, we are going to okay, right now the center of this eyelash is not in the center, so I'm going to press D, then holding down the X, and then move the center of this eyelash, or eyebrow rather, eyebrow to the center of the wall. Press D to get out, then duplicate special, and then we have our eyelash transferred to the other side. So now we can take a look at our result. And you can see she looks a little bit different than her sister from the other model, but I think we pretty much managed to demonstrate how to model this character. She has much smaller irises. Okay, maybe I can increase the size of this, make it bigger. Okay, and then this, I have to repeat it for this other face as well. And probably look about the same right now. Yep. So that is how you add the detail. And of course, there's still a lot of tweaking that needs to be done. You can see for this character, her nose is a bit more defined. So yeah, there's an additional edge loop that was added to create this area so that we can later build the nostril. Alright, so I will stop the video at this stage so that you all can try to build your character to this to this level. Okay, and you can see over here there's still a lot of areas that we can still tweak and adjust. So the thing is, take your time, okay, go and move the vertices until everything is nice and rounded, and then try to avoid having your character have a flat face. So if you take a look at this version and the other version that I did yesterday, okay, you can see that this character have a much flatter face compared to this one that I have. So she still exhibit a little bit of this V-shaped face that I'm talking about. Alright, so you want to try to keep the face as flat or a little bit rounded like that, okay, when you're modeling. This part here, a lot of students will make this mistake, alright, from my experience teaching this kind of modeling. Okay, so I will stop the video now, and then this is the result for this character for now.